Now, let's explain how to sew two fabrics together. First, we will explain the first sewing method. Now, you can see there are two fabrics, one yellow and one green. The number of rows crocheted in the two fabrics is the same. Now, we need to sew the two fabrics along the side edges. First, adjust the two pieces to the same side, then align along the edges. The yarn tail is in the middle position of the two fabrics. Thread the yarn tail onto the sewing needle. The sewing needle is already threaded. Now, let's demonstrate how to sew. Insert the sewing needle from the back of the first row of the yellow piece. Then insert from the first row of the green piece. Then the sewing needle exits through the gap between the first and second rows of the yellow piece. Insert into the gap between the first and second rows of the green piece. Sew along the edge in sequence. Exit between the second and third rows of the yellow piece. Enter between the second and third rows of the green piece. Ensure the seam line is pulled tight. Avoid having gaps that are too large in the middle. Sew 1 to 1 correspondingly. The two pieces are perfectly joined together. Sewing is completed. Both sides are the same. Finally, hide the yarn end inside the fabric. Now let's explain the second sewing method. Here, the top and bottom edges of the yellow and green pieces need to be sewn together. Align the edges of the two fabrics. Here, the yellow has 8 stitches. The green also has 8 stitches. Be sure the top and bottom are aligned. The number of stitches is the same. Thread the end of the yarn into the sewing needle. Here, it has already been threaded. Sew the edges of the two pieces together, matching them one by one. Insert the sewing needle from the back of the first stitch of the yellow piece. Then insert it from the front of the first stitch of the green piece. Next, insert it from the second stitch of the yellow piece. Be sure to pull the seam line tight here. The sewing needle needs to pass through both strands of the entire V-shaped stitch. Tighten the seam line. This way, each stitch corresponds 1 to 1 for sewing. Be sure to tighten the seam line. Sewing is completed. Both sides are the same. Finally, hide the yarn and inside the fabric.